Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. Gaslight. Jenna Marlowe had always known the city held shadows, but lately, those shadows seemed unnervingly focused on her. Each evening, the walk from her office to the small apartment in the East Side district began to feel like a high-wire act with no net below. There was no sign of the netherworld, no gleaming dagger or threatening figure, but a gnawing feeling that someone, something, was intent on making her falter. She first noticed it on a chilly October night, when the street lamps flickered like reluctant sentinels. Leaving her office, she caught the faint shuffle of footsteps toeing the pavement behind her. Quickening her pace, her pulse kicked like a caged animal, yet when she glanced back, there was nothing but an empty street, a stray newspaper fluttering in the cold breeze. She told herself it was a trick of paranoia, urban noises misinterpreted, but the seed was planted. By days, Jenna walked the streets with an uneasy vigilance. At the grocery store, a man with a dark cap lingered slightly too long near her aisle. In the subway, a woman seemed always to be sitting one car behind. The pattern defied logic. It never stayed consistent enough to trace or pinpoint, yet it threaded through every movement like a ghostly breadcrumb trail. She sought refuge in her apartment, bolted every latch, double-checked her locks, but the feeling of eyes watching never ceased. What troubled Jenna most was the absence of evidence. Cameras on the street seemed broken or angled away where she passed. Her phone showed no strange locations or messages. When she confided in her coworkers, they would nod sympathetically but without conviction. "Maybe you're just stressed," one would say. "It's all in your head," another teased quietly, dismissing her fears. Her closest friend, Mia, advised her to call the police, but Jenna feared the bureaucracy would only make her seem hysterical. Then came the phone calls. At first, silence, empty, breathless lines that went dead as soon as she answered. Then, sinister whispers, a scraping voice that spoke no coherent words but clattered inside her skull like falling debris. She eyed her phone with a mixture of dread and desperation. Every ring sent a shiver down her spine, no matter who was on the other end. Deciding she must reclaim control, Jenna started to investigate her own stalker. She took detours home, switching buses, sometimes even catching cabs to untraceable areas before returning to her apartment from odd angles. The footsteps persisted like a cruel game. Sometimes they sped up as if being caught, then slowed to a deliberate crawl the next night. Once, a shadow darted across an alleyway, barely more than a blur, but it vanished before Jenna could react. Her exhaustion mounted. Sleep, too, became tainted by nightmares. Half-glimpses of a cloaked figure crouched outside her window, eyes glowing faintly like ember coals. Morning light usually chased the specters away, but during one restless dawn, Jenna spotted broken glass on the stairwell of her building. The shards glittered menacingly as if warning her. A small piece pressed underfoot could be accidental or delivered. She reported it to building management, but was told no other tenants had complained. For Jenna, each unacknowledged menace compounded the isolation. One day, nearing the edge of her resilience, Jenna met an older man at the coffee shop near her office who claimed he was a private investigator recently retired but still obsessively curious about the darker side of city life. He introduced himself simply as Whitman. Sensing her tormented state, he offered to look into her case pro bono. Jenna felt a cautious hope as she gave Whitman the details of her routine, suspicious incidents, and her fears. His stoic presence was a balm to her frayed nerves. Whitman began by analyzing the times Jenna felt certain she was being followed. He mapped out her routes, observed CCTV footage. On several occasions, the footage revealed glimpses of someone who never lingered too long to be caught but shadowed her steps with surgical precision. Yet the shadow had no face, features blurred by angles or hurried movement. Whitman suggested that whoever it was remained untraceable, likely someone Jenna knew or someone who had access to surveillance technology. Days passed, then weeks, as Jenna's paranoia bleeded into Whitman's methodical approach. They tried leaving fake clues to bait the stalker, changed addresses, altered schedules, unexpected shortcuts. But the shadow adjusted, always one step behind, like a phantom in a dancer's reflection. The man or woman wanted to torment without confrontation, to sow fear like poisoned seeds in wild soil. At the same time, Jenna's workplace started to show eerie signs. Her desk drawers, once locked, were slightly ajar. Important documents went missing or reappeared crumpled. Emails vanished only to re-emerge with strange headers. Whitman suspected inside involvement but faced a dead end. Jenna feared betrayal but also feared making her suspicion known. Office politics and rumors could kill her reputation faster than any stalker's shadow could hurt her physically. It was late one autumn evening when things escalated further. Jenna received a parcel at home with no return address. Inside was an old, leather-bound journal, yellowed with age. Its pages contained personal entries, almost diary-like, but disturbingly, they detailed Jenna's whereabouts, moods, and even thoughts. There was a notation dated only days prior mentioning her recent conversations with Whitman. The revelation shattered any remaining illusion of safety. Somehow, the stalker was reading her mind through words she never spoke aloud. Jenna showed the journal to Whitman, whose calm veneer cracked. "This is someone close to you," he murmured. "Not your typical criminal. This is calculated, intimate." Determined to catch the perpetrator, Whitman recommended Jenna change her routine for 2 weeks, start counter-surveillance, and most importantly, confide only in him. She agreed, haunted by the knowledge that trust had become her greatest vulnerability. Yet, as the days turned colder, Jenna's isolation deepened. The stalker's presence was so subtle it felt omnipresent. A faint breath on the back of her neck. A slant of light that didn't belong. A whisper folded into the noise of city life. Her phone buzzed with cryptic texts. Single words like, "see," or, "wait," sometimes just random strings of symbols. Electronic devices acted unpredictably, flickering monitors, disappearing digital documents. Even Whitman's own equipment malfunctioned during their investigations. The stalker was no mere follower. They were a master manipulator, weaving reality into doubt. One twilight, Jenna decided to confront the nightmare head-on. She took the bus to a distant corner of the city, where old warehouses nestled behind graffiti-stained walls. She waited there with her phone on record, camera rolling on her shoulder, hoping to catch even a flicker of the elusive figure. Hours passed without incident until the bus emptied except for her. Then, the flicker, footsteps, jaunty now, circling behind her. A shadow emerged from the murky recesses, not a bulky stranger, but a thin figure in a nondescript coat. When Jenna asked who they were, the figure vanished into the night without a word. The tape captured nothing but darkness and silence. The experience left Jenna both terrified and emboldened. Someone wanted her to know they could show themselves but chose not to. It was a warning or a game. With Whitman's help, she dug into her past, probing relationships and old acquaintances for enemies she might have forgotten. Past romances, business partners, even casual acquaintances who might have held grudges all fell under the microscope, but none emerged as obvious suspects. The truly chilling thought was the stalker could have been anyone. A stranger, a coworker, a neighbor, even a friend. Then Whitman uncovered something remarkable. Jenna's apartment building security logs recorded an ID card entry late one night that didn't belong to any tenant. On a closer look, the image was blurred, but the coat matched the silhouette Jenna had seen in the warehouse. The time also coincided with the night the glass shards appeared in the stairwell. They requested the building administration to cross-reference cleaning staff schedules and maintenance logs, only to find discrepancies, missing sign-in sheets, unreported access times. It was clear multiple insiders could be involved or at least complicit. Determined to get a definitive answer, Jenna set a trap under Whitman's guidance. She invited a few trusted co-workers to her apartment for a small gathering after work, out in the open, a place usually filled with laughter and ease. Hidden cameras watched every corner of the living space, and Whitman monitored the entrance. Jenna wore a concealed microphone, hoping to catch a slip or a soul unmasked. The night unfolded uneventfully until Jenna saw a smartphone light blinking under the kitchen counter. A phone had been tethered secretly to her home Wi-Fi for hours, transmitting data. Whitman hurried to seize it, revealing a specialized surveillance app with location tracking and camera streaming capabilities. The arrogance of the stalker's precision was staggering. Whoever this was, they weren't just observing, they had intimate, nearly invasive access to Jenna's life. Before they could analyze the device further, the power suddenly cut and the room was plunged into darkness. Panic surged through guests and Jenna alike. Whitman rushed to open the windows while Jenna felt a sharp jab in her arm. The world spun sideways as disorienting nausea washed over her. When she woke hours later, she was alone in her apartment. The following morning offered no evidence of forced entry. Nothing but the lingering sting on her arm and a sparse note tucked beneath her pillow. "Trust no one." The words echoed through Jenna's head, shattering dreams of clarity. Her isolation became absolute, pushing her to the brink. Whitman was unreachable, his phone went dead. The building's security system had been hacked, CCTV wiped clean for days. Jenna was a woman surrounded by invisible enemies, her reality unraveling in a malicious conspiracy. But Jenna refused to surrender. Hours spent poring over the confiscated phone revealed message history punctuated by encrypted files and cryptic symbols. Using Whitman's contacts, she decrypted some of the files. A series of photos taken inside her apartment on random days. Shots of her slumbering, reading, even crying alone. The stalker was meticulously documenting her life with an obsession bordering on madness. Her next move was unorthodox but necessary. Jenna confronted her neighbors, one by one, under the guise of community concern over the increased break-ins rumored in the East Side. At her building, several faces she thought familiar revealed tiny cracks, nervous glances, evasive answers, uncharacteristic silence. Suddenly, trust fractured like fragile glass. She sensed the stalker's satisfaction at her turmoil, a predator feeding on fractured human connections. One restless midnight, Jenna overheard muffled voices through thin walls. She crept to the window and looked down onto the rain-slicked pavement. Shadows moved below, figures exchanging whispered messages, passing sheaves of paper, stealing brief moments before dissolving into the darkness. It was a network, a secret circle of watchers. They were orchestrated, their surveillance a calculated assault on her sanity. Faced with this tangled web, Jenna's final act of desperation was to disappear. She left a note for Whitman at the coffee shop, a place they had often met, telling him she would find the stalker herself by turning the tables. She meant to embrace the shadows and force the game's end. She abandoned her phone, changed her appearance drastically, and vanished without a trace. Weeks later, a file was delivered anonymously to Whitman's office. Inside were series of photographs from a rooftop overlooking the city. One photo showed a blurred figure standing over Jenna's former apartment, holding a small device emitting a pale blue glow. The next was of Jenna's hurried footprints trailing away into a misty dawn. Whitman's face darkened as he pieced together the final truth. Jenna had become part of the very shadows she sought to escape. swallowed into the gaslight maze where the hunter and hunted blurred into one. For more stories, like and subscribe.